Hey, what is going on? I wanted to make this video and basically just wanted to kind of talk about why I kind of changed the channel a little bit and then also show you some things maybe you're not aware of. But at certain times, there are things that are more important than, games, hunting, even work and family. And that's morals, right? I think most people probably have some set of morals. Some people probably have really low standards of morals, but I'd imagine some people have morals and to some degree, and that's one reason why I kind of talk about politics a little bit every now and then. Mostly, I kind of just enjoy making fun of politicians because it's just funny. Some of them are just outlandish and really dumb. But I want to run through some videos here and kind of show you why I really did change the channel to kind of just talk about whatever we want to talk about.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
And if you don't know who this next gentleman is, John Kerry, he used to be a politician in the U.S. I don't know if he still is. I don't think he's a politician anymore. But obviously he still has a lot of connections. And the previous person was AOC.
Tough. Everybody's wrestling with that right now. And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go, and that people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways. And that's really...
Oh, and here's the ever lovely Hillary Clinton.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
And here's Kamala Harris.
We'll double the Civil Rights Division and direct law enforcement to counter this extremism. We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy. And if you profit off of hate, If you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
And here's the ever so creepy Bill Gates.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, you know, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. Should, you know, have rules? And then if you have rules, you know, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules? Because you have billions of activity, and, you know, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
So yeah, as you kind of heard, a lot of the theme there was misinformation. And basically what was really kind of come up is, you know, if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, maybe you're young, back in 2016 when Trump was campaigning for his first presidency, he caught media off guard by calling them fake news. Fake news. And that, I mean, everybody knows what fake news is, right? I mean, it's the slogan, and I got a guy's chat. We throw that in there like all the time, every now and then, when people are just throwing out some bullshit. But it's almost like the other side of whatever will come up with some of their own slogan, right? So Trump and the conservatives or the right or Republicans came up with fake news. On the left, well, they came up with misinformation. But the thing is, and the difference is the left is really trying to use this to monitor what you hear and kind of filter and throttle the things that are kind of even out there. This is a headline, and you saw some of those clips actually were from the World Economic Forum. The WEF calls for imprisonment of social media owners who allow non-mainstream content on their platforms. The reason why this is a big deal, the reason why social media is very important, is it's kind of like that checks and balances that's really important here in the U.S. in the political space. And the reason why they want mainstream media to be the main source is they control the mainstream media. And so my question is since the coming of social media and so many voices that are checking whether or not everything we're being told is truthful from mainstream media and government sources, my question is, how long has that been going on? 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years? Because remember, the mainstream media has always been a very small collective. It's been very tiny. You know, we've always, you know, they told us when to go to war. They told us, you know, they put out the information for presidential candidates. Did you know that the RFK Jr., who is part of the Trump team, do you know he was actually running for president? You might not have known that because mainstream media would never put him on a platform. They would never let him talk. And he cited that as one of the reasons why he actually had to withdraw. Is why he withdrew his presidency, because he could never get out there and talk to anybody. They would never use him. This guy right here, this guy's Klaus Schwab, I believe is his name. He is one of the top guys at the WEF, and he has this grand vision of globalism, and you can't do that unless you control what is said and heard. So I want to play a couple more videos, and they're actually pretty good. This is the president of Argentina. Let me see if there's his name. Javier Milei. He is the president of Argentina, I believe.
Since the socialists came to power, they have been jailing people for posting on social media. And the journalists here would like that too, because they don't like that they have lost the monopoly of the microphone and the ability to use that tool to extort and smear, to defame without any cause. Social media makes them accountable, and they don't like it. stop searching. Ghosts, they are getting the same treatment they gave, but now people are doing it organically because they realized many of them are criminals.
So yeah, him talking about how the media is even built in corrupt and a competitor with social media lets you know that mainstream media is not on board with social media at all, right? And this is RFK Jr. kind of talking about social media at the government level and what has kind of been done.
37 hours after he took the oath of office, President Biden's White House opened up a portal for the FBI to begin to have access to social media posts on all the different social media sites. And the FBI then invited in the CIA, DHS, the IRS, and CISA. CISA is this new agency that is the center of the censorship industrial complex that is in charge of making sure Americans don't hear things that their government doesn't want them to hear. And those agencies and other agencies, including the health agencies like CDC, were given access to go into the social media sites and change posts and slow walk things and shadow ban posts. That it was part of that effort. They removed my Instagram account.
So I'll leave it there. But the thing that, as I've seen more of this over the past year, I kind of realized I wanted to change the channel, and that this is a big reason why. How do we, the people, the ones in charge, the people, not the politicians we elect, how do we, the people, make the most informed and best decision, right, for the country? How do we do that if we don't have the best information? If we don't have all the information? The only reason to control what is said and what is heard is if you are trying to do something malicious or your arguments do not hold up against the truth, which in that case, you just want it your way. You're just a dictator. You just want to be a dictator. It doesn't matter about the truth. It doesn't matter about what the people think. And in a democracy, you heard one of those videos mention in a democracy, and I get it, we're not an exact democracy, but in a democracy, the people make the choices. The people have that representation. The people are the bosses. And I'll leave you with this. Remember, the First Amendment is the freedom to speech, not the freedom to regulate speech.